Yeah, now. Okay, we're all on board now. Hi guys. Hi Rohan from India Trail and John from Chalo Hoppo. Karma and myself from August. Um, it's nice seeing you guys here finally, and we've been wanting to connect for a while. we have.
Right.
So I guess everybody just say maybe just introduce yourselves a little bit, right? Yeah,
Right.
Rohan.
Okay. So I'm John Rafael. I head the sales and ops at Chalo Hoppo. We're a travel company that's doing trips and tours in the Northeast, particularly the Seven Sisters. I think we're in about 5 out of the 7 right now ourselves, and we're trying to get to the other 2 as well. And yeah, we've been operating for the last 3.5 years right now. And it's probably the toughest times that we've seen at this point of time. But it's just a blip, I'm guessing, and we're hopeful to like bounce back soon once everything is back to normal.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Rohan, you want to go?
Yeah, so I'm Rohan from India Trail. We have a travel agency. We're based out of Kohima, and we also operate exclusively in the Northeast. We focus largely on Sikkim, Meghalaya, some parts of Arunachal, a little bit of Assam, and Nagaland. Our way of operation is that we find our core competency, and the rest we use channel partners. So, for example, in Sikkim, we use our guest. Similarly, in other locations, we have other people. We have a team of about 6 people, and we've been in operation for 5.5 years now. It's been a little difficult for the last 3 months, but that's basically what we do. So we've gotten into campsites maybe about 2 years back. We have a campsite in Nagaland. We've done some for the different hornbill festivals that happen across the state, and we were planning to get into some cottages again, also in Nagaland, but I think that's going to be put on hold for a short while. So that's pretty much what we do.
Okay, thanks, guys. Of course, I mean, Karma and myself from August here in Sikkim, and we obviously have never done anything like this, right? This whole thing was just trying to just connect with partners and friends like John and Rohan, and we felt that as 3 organizations based exclusively in the Northeast, and I think we're all doing our version of responsible tourism, in whatever way we can, and obviously this has come as a big hit for all of us. And I think all of us agreed on one point that we kind of felt that, of course, we are pretty much on survival mode right now, just trying to sustain, keep the company afloat. But there were also a lot of, I think, issues and questions we had in our minds, and it would be great if we could share these across on a conversation like this. This is really neat, and I mean, we have our viewers, our friends across the world, across India, old guests, old friends, share their views on certain issues too, right?
Right.
This is Karma here. Like Vincent mentioned, I guess we're a company based out of Sikkim, and we work with homestays mostly in Sikkim, Northeast India, and try and conduct offbeat tours around them. I think the situation, at least in Sikkim so far, is quite controlled. We have luckily had no cases of COVID-19 here in the state. We had a lockdown, I think, one day before the Prime Minister announced on 25th. So from 24th March, Sikkim has been under lockdown. I think it's been quite good in terms of the execution and the way the people have supported the lockdown. So far, I think there's minimal movement, only necessary movements like for grocery, medical, etc. Otherwise, I think largely people have cooperated, and at least hence I think the number of cases are down here. And so far, it's been fine. People have been getting the ration at their homes, and hopefully, I think most worried we should be for the migrant work. But I think most of them at least state, and hopefully some supplies are reaching to them.
All right. Okay. Well, guys, I don't know. I mean, just before we connected also today, when I was having a chat with Rohan, Rohan, you mentioned also that we're talking about sustainability right now, right? Like just trying to sustain through this period. And I'm sure, John, you'll agree too, right? Just before this, Rohan, you mentioned about the Citizens Bill, right? That's, I mean, it's pretty tough, right? With that happening and then this following suit.
Yep, it's been almost 4 months with no business now. I think it's only been cancellations and full refunds. That's all we've been doing. Inquiries have sort of dried up as well. the only inquiries that we're getting now are for December. So I suspect, and I think, given the monsoons and the fact that people will be a little hesitant to travel, we should be looking at getting our next set of guests, or at least the next set of frequent travelers will be coming in maybe November this year. I don't anticipate anything earlier than that. I mean, we'd be lucky if it happens before that, but
exactly.
I doubt it.
John, what's your take on that? November. I mean,
Pretty similar. I think, especially with the Northeast since December, then I think it was December 9th or December 19th, if I'm not wrong, when the CAA issue kind of just blew up. And since then, I think December and Jan were difficult because of that. February was coming back to normal, and then COVID-19 just hit us all like a truck. So I'm guessing it's been a very, very difficult 4 months. In the Northeast, I mean, particularly June, July, August is usually monsoon. So it's almost, we usually work on a 9-month cycle anyway, 9 to 10 month cycle. So this point of time, I don't see a cure or a vaccine or any of that sort coming in the next 3-4 months. So I'm guessing that October to March is what we are focusing on as well, trying to see if we can release our calendars for starting October, November. That too, in my opinion, is a little optimistic. Because at the end of the day, it completely depends on people coming from outside to the Northeast, which is where the major threat of anything spreading like a viral infection is. So, I mean, we're hoping that there will be a phase where, I mean, at least that's what I think. I think there will be a phase where right now it's complete lockdown. There will be a normalcy that will resume, but in between there'll probably be a phase where people from the Seven Sisters can probably travel within the Seven Sisters, because they're going to try and divide the country into probably zones like green zone, orange zone, red zone. That's what we're hearing. And maybe the Bombays, Bangalore's and all will be the ones that are most affected, and people from there will probably not be able to come to the Northeast, but people from within these other regions might be able to visit. So we probably have to try and shift our focus a little bit towards the local crowds as well, before eventually things get back to normal, maybe by November, December, or even 2021.
Okay, well, I mean, Karma, we've been also talking about the expected bookings, right? I mean, I think 2020 is almost a write-off from our end too, right? Like almost.
Yes, I think it's expected maybe 12 months. Probably it's what I believe a lot of travel companies are looking at. So it's going to be difficult, of course. And even after that, I think the way people travel is, we can't predict anything, but I think safety first is something that's going to be an issue for most travelers. So maybe, I don't know, in future, like travel companies have to ensure that their guests are basically, plus wherever they go, a lot of places have to be beforehand only is all the, so maybe a lot more customized travel and not so much of commercial travel or commercial travel in the beginning maybe.
I think we lost Karma a bit because of the data, but I think Rohan, this is something that you told me, I think too, right? Like how the hygiene standards. I remember you told me about that was your concern. Like how are we as a travel outfit? How are we going to be dealing with this, like post-corona?
So we've got two things that we need to worry about. One is the habits of people are going to change. What they expect from us when they travel is definitely something that is going to change. So we need to preempt that and obviously figure out how, once we pick them up from the airport or wherever we pick them up from, to make them feel comfortable all the way through is one side of the story. And the second side of the story is, as a business point of view, we need to be careful and also prepared for the legal side and the responsibilities that we need to take on once we have a client with us, and in case something was to happen, what's the way forward now. So I think that these two sides of the story is something that we need to think about and figure out how we're going to address it. But it's a reality now, and we have to figure that out. And I think that's where a group like this can sit down together and come and think of every possible thing that can go wrong and how can we preempt that. It'll save us from a lot of legal hassles and also make our customers more comfortable.
Right. And I think from our end too, something that we're very keen to understand is I think Karma was exchanging an idea about an article that he read. Like Booking.com, apparently their experts are expecting Booking.com sales to do really well as opposed to now Airbnb, because probably people will find hygiene and cleanliness to be an issue with homestays. I don't know. It could be either way, right? I think Karma, that's what you read somewhere. You were telling, and I mean, I don't know, how does that affect us too now? Like, because how do we deal with this? Do we train our stakeholders? Do we have new SOPs? Right, something like that.
So I
One of the
think
things that I was thinking about is that at least for within the areas that we operate in directly, we guarantee our guests that we have sent someone in and sanitized the place, at least for the first 6 months. So if I'm sending someone to John's working, I would ask him to do that with his team. If he's sending someone to Nagaland, our team will go ahead and do it. If I'm sending someone to Sikkim, obviously you'll do that. Similarly, I think if we can get ourselves together and we create an SOP that says before the guest walks in, these are the things that we've done inside that room, whether it's an Airbnb or whether it's a some random homestay or whether it's a hotel. I think if we can work with each other and make sure that we've done this, we support each other and we can fix this.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. That sounds like a. Yeah, I mean, I was on a call this morning. I think I told you guys, like, I was on a call with Julie from Curtain Calls, and I think all of us, we know Julie quite well personally also, and she mentioned to me something that was very it struck me. She said that there's probably going to be a lot more of cooperation and participation and partnerships between organizations now, more than ever.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you guys think about that, right?
I think that's the only way forward. We'll have to cooperate and work together in this, because I mean, I can't have my foot everywhere, in terms of, I can't, like Rohan was saying, if I was to get a sanitizing done of all the places, I would need your help to make sure that my guests are going to a place that's sanitized. Similarly with Rohan in Nagaland or elsewhere. So, I mean, that's the way forward. We'll have to work together. We'll have to see how everyone, instead of trying to get a piece of the pie, probably get a bigger pie over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, and share it equally. But that's probably the way forward, and I think it's a good positive that can come out of this as well.
Okay. In terms of travel trend, guys, what do you feel? What do you guys feel? We're thinking that pretty much domestic travel is going to be the scene. I don't know. And maybe, I was also concerned. I think I probably brought it up in one of our conversations before, but when domestic travel picks up, and it will pick up at some point of time, there could also be a lot of undercutting, right? And this is something that even Julie mentioned to me. Like, there could be a lot of undercutting with, agencies and companies, and because everybody's, trying to grab that same, piece of that little bit of travel pie. This is where we could probably come together again. I'm seeing a lot of partnerships again, I guess.
Yeah, true.
We have to make sure that we don't operate as a cartel.
For
Yeah.
Someone talking because I can hear.
Yeah.
But I mean, my view on that is that. I'm sorry, is Karma saying something because his screen is frozen and I can't hear? Karma, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think my network is not so good. But I was mentioning that, properties we work with, I think we have to make sure that they are the ones who have been doing all this, quarantine, cleaning, etc. So in terms of all these things, maybe a certification or some way of highlighting that these ones have been trained, or the SOP has been instructed to them and they will be following this. I think maybe going forward, probably using those properties only in the beginning, at least until others follow and others also do similar practice, would be safer. And I don't know about the vehicles, some contact tracing. I think every traveler who comes, and whenever we do any tour or something, kind of, let's say, a sheet or an app that we need to fill. I think wherever we go, wherever our travelers or guests go, probably.
I have a view on this, which is Karma. Back to the point that I was mentioning a couple of years back.
Yep.
Which is we identify people that we think offer the same set of standards as all of us in this group do, and we set a standard level, like the equivalent of like an ISO or something where if a traveler from anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world was to come with either one of us, we offer a minimum level of service, which is A, B, C, D, E, plus a minimum level of security. And that's where we all operate with each other. We help each other doing this if we're within that network. Now, we can call that network whatever it is. But the idea being that you can't stop a customer from going with someone who's cheaper. But you can tell that customer, you can educate that customer saying that if you were to come with either one of us in this group, this is the minimum level of service that we can offer you as a standard. Now, I don't think we should get into the business of lowering our costs just to get that business, because we'll kill each other in the process. But I think we should maintain a certain level of standard and a certain level of cost, and that's what we offer. And that, as a group, that's what we all offer. And I think eventually it might take a month or two and maybe a few failed bad experiences from the cheaper people that offer the services, that they will eventually come back to us. As long as we can position ourselves as a network offering a certain level of standard.
Yeah, sorry, John, you're saying something?
No, I was just listening.
All right. Yeah, I mean that does make sense. I mean, this almost like it's giving birth to some form of a network, like you mentioned, Rohan. And I also see that speaks. I think that speaks well, from an organization standpoint. Like all of us are. Obviously, sustainability is really important. This is our livelihood, but we also make sure that we try and do our level best at the safest possible means of travel. And of course, I think we can get back to the drawing board and reconnect again regarding these lines. I don't know, Rohan, I think you have some clarity on this. Maybe you could go ahead and, anyways, a network of sorts was something you already, spoke to me. I think I remember more than 2 years back. So yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to see what you have to say. And yeah. Right.
I mean, the whole idea is that this network should enable us and not restrict us. It shouldn't be something that that's too difficult to comply with, but it should be something that if I was to send my clients to John, and because we're all part of the same network and we have a minimum standard of service, I know for a fact the minute I hand it over to him, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Also, it should work out to educate the customer, saying that here's a group of, let's say, 6 travel agencies across the Northeast. These are what they're all individually good for. They work together. And if you go with any one of these guys, that's the thing. And then it sets the standard that hopefully other travel agencies across the Northeast would want to come and join us. Then again, we have to, as a group, sort of agree to let anyone in, because we have to make sure that if you get into that group and you're part of that group, you will deliver consistent quality. So yeah, I'll take the lead on this, and I'll draft up something that I can circulate to each of you. And maybe you can give us some thoughts and see how we can go with that. That's something that we can do during this time when we don't have much else to do.
Yeah, excellent. I think that's a good way forward. Very quite interesting. And also, I think just going way forward, right? I think my favorite word, Karma's favorite word, we've been talking a lot about the quote unquote new normal. And that is going to be something that we have to get really used to now, the coming months, maybe for a year. There's going to be a new set of normal. There's going to be new travel trends. Everything's going to just go upside down. And I don't know if we, as stakeholders in this industry, have actually put our heads enough into thinking or trying to plan. Like some might call it really a bit too early right now. But when a business shuts down for more than 3 weeks, and like you guys mentioned, we already had the citizens, the issue earlier in the year. So it's actually a lot more than 3 weeks that we've suffered cancellations and losses. So I personally, and I think as an organization, we feel that it's a high time that we start discussing on the way forward. What can we do? Because sustainability is going to be questioned, like a big question mark now. So it'd be nice to connect again. Things like, occupancy, right? If you talk about a hotel, what did the Chinese do when, when they closed their borders? So when they had people quarantined for 14 days, travelers, the state took over the hotels. I think that's what they did. Then they provided room service, meals from outside the door itself, isolated that way. And also I think they did on 20%, 30% occupancy of the entire property, something like that, right? So, that's just an example, but I'm sure we can innovate. That's probably a big word now, right? Like we can innovate and find new ways of, doing what we do, at least for the next couple of months now. So, yeah.
For me, I think when you say the new normal, see, it's going to take some time for the new normal to be uh, put in stone and set in stone as what is the new normal. Uh, till then, I think, like you said, sustainability of anyone and everyone involved with us, with respect to like drivers, guides, porters, anyone. It's the sustainability of them and their livelihoods, which is also our responsibility. And I think the new normal will eventually come, just like how to go to Africa now, you need to get a yellow fever immunity vaccine. I mean, that became normal eventually. Like you have to get it before going to see a rhino or to see a tiger in Africa. That's probably one of the extreme cases that might happen where you have to probably take a COVID-19 vaccine before entering either parts of any part of the world and any part of tourism. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect, I think, is when we're thinking about all these drivers, guides, and people in the regions, like for example in Meghalaya, if I was to just to say Nongriat, where the double-decker living root bridges are there. Uh, how do we make sure that the people who are guides, who the almost the entire village, maybe about 30 to 40 people of them, more than that, probably survive on only tourism. So how do they survive till people start traveling there again? One of the things which I was jotting down, trying to see, how it will benefit them in any way was in this meantime where there are no travelers, if we can get, uh, if the government can interfere and try and see if we can build toilets or build better safety, like the steps down to Nongriat, if we can improve that, and basically taking these places which are already popular, and there are people who are surviving because of those places, because of these places becoming popular, that's their livelihood, and trying to improve those places. And this is the best time to do it. This is the best time for us to repair a broken bridge or repair a non-functioning toilet, for example. And the government interferes there and tries to provide them with work, which indirectly will lead to 10 years of tourism after that. And those are some of the things that I've thought of, like how we can, help all kinds of people in our who we are working with. I have noted down a few other points. I mean, when I do think of it, I'll probably let you guys know. But yeah, when you were talking about the new normal and how what are the things that we can do to help out, these are a couple of points that came into my head.
Okay, I think that makes sense. If I got this correctly, you're saying that a lot of these, let's say the stakeholders, the beneficiaries of, tourism, is that they start getting utilized for other, let's say, works. And obviously,
Correct. Which will eventually lead to better tourism itself, like which will eventually lead to more people visiting a Nongriat or or a better sanitation facility in that particular village if there are toilets constructed or parking lots which are bigger and better. Molling Long, for example, it's been told as the cleanest village in Asia for the last 10 years. TripAdvisor has been talking about it, and there are traffic jams every day. No one wants to go to Molling Long anymore because they're just stuck in traffic. So, why do that? Get better facilities. Get when that is a tourist attraction already. People are surviving because of that. Try and do a little better. Try and probably uh, uh, make like start a small hike from somewhere further away so that you avoid the traffic, and you make improvements to tourism, keeping in mind that it's a 20 years down the line, 50 years down the line, this has to survive anyway, and it's not just a short term solution that we find because of COVID-19. We're trying to like get back to normal as soon as possible, but take it slow. We've already we're all on a break right now. Take it slow and try and make sure that we come back with a long-term plan in mind.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense. I mean, so that yeah, I'm seeing a lot of things on those lines. I mean, also I'm thinking like, because we're talking about sustainability of these guys down on the ground for the next couple of months, because they're going to earn zero from tourism. So maybe get them to get other works done, which is linked to tourism eventually anyways, but at least they have some form of livelihood for the interim period, let's call it, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, John, Rohan, Karma and I have been discussing also about what about even sustainability for guys like us, right? Like us stakeholders. Like, you guys have any ideas on what can we maybe appraise the government, state government, if we have to for help, for sustainability for ourselves also. Like, I don't know, soft loans, whatever. You guys have any points on those?
I mean, at this point, payroll protection is what I can think of, like just ensuring that the employees, I mean, we definitely don't want to lay off anyone. We have a very happy team and we want to keep them, but it's obviously very difficult to do that if there's no business for like 7 to 8 months. So, I mean, the number one thing that I would ask the government or ask anyone is probably payroll protection. That's about it at this point of time.
Right, so somebody takes the hit. That's probably the government. Rohan, sorry, anything on this?
Well, I quite agree with the payroll protection, but instead of it being a grant, I think it should be some sort of a very low interest sort of loan, because if you're running a business, you should be able to handle the ups and the downs. I know this is an unusual situation and cash flow is the issue. It's not whether we'll be able to pay it back or not. So I think if we could get a payroll protection like he mentioned, which I completely agree with and would definitely help us, we should have some sort of a system where for the next 6 months we get some sort of assistance and pay it back over the next 12 months. So we're not really leaning on people or the taxpayers' money to sustain, but we are taking a loan to help other people earn their livelihood and our business run. And coming back to the new normal that we were discussing earlier, I was reading an article where people tend to have a habit of reverting back to their old selves pretty quickly. So maybe for 6 months after this, people will be very finicky and very careful. But if we do get a vaccine and if things get back to normalish, people will go back to their old habits reasonably soon, maybe not in the near future. But you might have some smaller habits like masks and hand sanitizers and those sort of things carrying forward for eternity. But I don't think I see people changing their behavior too drastically for too long. That's something that we should keep in mind.
That's true. And even payroll protection. Sorry if I go back there. It just struck me also that I think the UK government does something like that. I have a friend in the UK, and she has a small startup, and her not many employees obviously in that, but their salaries are being taken care of by the government as of now. I'm yet to actually clarify, understand whether it's a loan or is it a grant. I don't know what it is, but at least that is handled, and this would be great because we hear, of course, the prime minister say that please don't, lay off people. That can only go so far. We all know the reality of that. So yeah, I think that's an important point. Yeah, Karma.
Yeah, we'll have to think out of that. And maybe, like I mentioned before, that I think Sikkim so far has no cases, and hopefully the cases in other parts of Northeast also will be controlled. So within the state, at least if we are allowed to move around, we can also look at content creation for, let's say, other travel companies. Maybe Rohan can pay us for creating content for Sikkim, for India trails, and maybe John can, whatever it is that he wants from Sikkim, right? Because he for sure can't come here right now. Let's assume he can't come here for the next 3-4 months. So then I think we can go around, our team can go around, do a lot of content creation, whatever is it that you want, blogs, videos, good photographs, whatever things that you did not have earlier in order to promote the state, things like that. I think as a team, we have the staff, and if we are allowed to move around within the state, I think that's something that we can do. And not only like John and Rohan, but a lot of people and travel agents across the world and India who want to promote Sikkim, let's say, we can look at content creation as one of, I think, a revenue generation stream.
I'd like to add on that point. There was this plan that we were thinking about, similar. It's not necessarily content creation, but it would follow the same procedure, where during the time when people are not traveling or not allowed to travel, I was thinking we take GoPros and we take cameras and we actually document some of the really important places within our area. So, for example, if I go to Nagaland, if I'm in Nagaland, I do the Zuku trek, I do the Pulevadze trek, I do some other treks here and there, or take pictures of different areas, with the purpose of creating a YouTube channel that is open and public for all, where, let's say, now we link it up with this new alliance that we are creating, and we create this YouTube channel for that alliance. And each of us goes and does exactly what Karma says. We create this marketing collateral, put it up on that, and we basically say, listen, since you can't travel, we're going out, we're doing the traveling for you, showing you what is there. Now, do you want to come and see this? So we create this YouTube channel. it benefits all of us. So John does his area, you do Sikkim, we do Nagaland, we get someone else to do some other states in Arunachal here, and they put it all together, and it all goes out as part of this alliance there with the long-term intention that people will see that video. We'll all obviously be sharing it with our own groups and want to come to the Northeast when at that point of time they can't physically travel.
Yeah, that's a pretty neat virtual tour scene, right? That's really nice.
Yeah.
I think we've spoken to a few of our guides that we work with right now in Nagaland, Meghalaya, all of that. I mean, yeah, content creation coming from what Karma said. That's one of the things that's still functioning, that's still happening. So we have spoken to our guides, trying to see if those local guides can become influencers on Instagram. Just start their own page, show the people just in and around where they're staying for the time being. Obviously, you can't get people to the Northeast right now, but they can show the Northeast through Instagram. And that's one of the things I call just getting. We try and get people from outside with 100,000 followers, 200,000 followers to show Nagaland, to show Meghalaya. This is the perfect time for someone from within the state itself to be showing the place. So we have asked our guides to start, just what they're doing in daily life. Example, what they have in their fridge to what they're cooking on a daily basis, just to start shooting it and seeing if we can get them to put it on their own pages. They've all started their Instagram pages and trying to see if they can put it up. That's one of the ways where, again, they're busy. Obviously people will want to travel with them once they start uploading the content, and we get a bit of eyeballs onto their page. So yeah, that's content creation is always still ongoing process. It's still probably the only department in the company that's as good as before, maybe better.
Wow, yeah. But I think I got to say that firstly, I thought Zoom gives you 40 minutes. You're right. I think there was 4 of us, and it extended more than 40 minutes. And I'm like surprised. Like we had so much to chat about. I thought this is just going to be like a quick chat with friends, but this is a nice way forward. It's really nice connecting with you guys, and I think the onus is on you now, Ron, to just think up of what you want in this alliance. And we are definitely game. I think from our end, whatever we can do, and I'm sure John and his team are also, and we've got a couple of months ahead of us. Big question mark was what are we going to do in these couple of months going forward? But I'm sure even on, when we can share our discussions also on our pages when this goes up, whenever it goes up. Now, I'm really curious to see what the people have to say too, right? Like, what do viewers have to say? We talk about like opening up borders eventually for travel. What are the kind of hesitations that they might have? I think that was a word that Rohan, I remember, used clearly. Like, what are you going to be hesitating about besides the obvious? What do you think of rural travel? What are you thinking? Statistically, it feels also like northeast of India right now, thankfully, is still not so heavy on the numbers, right? The COVID numbers. So on one hand, we want to promote. On the other hand, again, we are skeptical and scared. Very sensitive ecosystem that we have here, right? Bad healthcare. Yeah, just thanks, yeah, guys. This is a really nice chat. This is a really, really nice chat. And I don't know. We could go on and on and on. Karma, you want to add anything to this? We could just keep going on and chatting otherwise.
No, I think you summed it up well. I think it's a good time to collaborate. It's a good time to see how we can bring ourselves together. I think 3 companies are better than different ones, and different people would want different services. I think travel as an industry better, not only in terms of experience, but also in terms of healthcare, hygiene, contact tracing, ensuring a service is, especially from the point of view of safety, I think medical safety, all that thing is better. So it's good to have a discussion amongst other stakeholders and try and come up with one SOP or one set of guidelines that I think all the companies, at least in this meeting, in this group, and as we expand, to come together and work and ensure that everyone who travels in this part of the country is safe, and not only the travelers but also people who are hosting them and other individuals who come in contact with them as they travel.
Mm-hmm. All right, I guess we take away from this little chat is that yes, I think a lot more hopefully fruitful partnerships will be forged, and I think we can all work together for a common cause. I think we'll be in touch, of course, guys. We'll be in touch. And I mean, you guys want to share any words?
I think as all of you guys have been saying, let's just use this time to create our new way of operation, which we can launch once this is over. I'd love to have another call maybe in 2 weeks' time after I could send you something to look at. I'll send you guys something to look at if you can get me your feedback, and then we can have a call similar to this to discuss it. That would be a good way forward from my side.
Nice. All right. Okay. Sure. John, anything you want to add before we? Yeah.
Not really. I think it's been a great platform to just chat and figure out where everyone is, and I think we're all on the same boat. Just trying to see how we can collaborate and come out of this in the best way possible. And yeah, thanks for that.
All right, great. And I just as a parting shot, I guess I'd say that we are open to having more like-minded organizations joining us, I suppose, right? I mean, they can.
Right, definitely.
They can comment below, or they can tag us or whatever in whatever way. And of course, Rohan is the boss. We'll pass that on to you. So looking forward to it.
My only worry with that would be service quality. If we are going to distinguish ourselves with service quality, we have to make sure that people would deliver the same quality. That's all. That's the only condition.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. You guys took out a lot of time from your day, and we'll connect again for sure. So let's be in touch. Okay. Let's be in touch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right, man. See you guys.
Great.
See you guys.
Yep. See you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.